Hi, I'm Imani Whyte, and I am reading my submission for the 2019 Writer's Eye Contest, and my piece is called Dawn. So here we go. Silence. A brooding, overbearing silence. It was thick with cries and yells from minutes before. We sat now on opposite sides of the room, staring at each other through the glass wall separating us. We tried to see something through the fog of disappointment, a glimpse of remorse, a sign of emotion, anything. Her face was painted with tears, so much so that she looked like a failed Monet. Yet it was beautiful, in a heartbreaking way. Our tethers had become so unraveled that there was nothing left to do but stare with a mix of disgust and limerence. I felt around in my pockets and pulled out a cigarette, reaching for the lighter on the tabletop. You know that stuff's not good for you, right? Practically turns your lungs to ash. I know, Dawn, I said through a sigh. I know. I went outside, taking the cigarette with me. The door slammed behind me. I couldn't stand to look at her. I could see my reflection in her eyes and her movements, and I couldn't bring myself to face it. I nimbly lifted the cigarette to my lips. Inhale, then exhale. The smoke mixed with the fog and the sky and the stars. I breathed in everything I never wanted to be. I jerked as I heard the door slam again. Again, there was silence as we glanced at each other. She pulled the cigarette from my lips and placed it between hers. I thought those killed you. They do. I nodded, trying to look everywhere but at her, but my eyes still landed on hers. I started. I am too. She let the cigarette fall from her mouth and stomped it out. Come here. She held out her hand for me to take it, and when I hesitated, she placed it in mine. Her hand was warm, familiar and foreign all at once, and as I touched it, I got a sense of what we were. She dragged me through the night, the cold washing over us. City lights looked down on us with shame in their eyes. They seemed to turn away from us out of spite, but still we persisted, and I started to smile. I kept in pace with her, because this reminded me of the beginning, when we were beautiful together. This was the exact start, the infatuation, the freedom, the craving to smash the galaxy with our bare hands. This was it, and even if it was only for a fleeting moment, we still had it. She turned to me with the most naive face and I had ever seen. She said, "You know this world was built for us." "Who else could it be built for?" I replied stupidly. For what else could it be but stupidity for us to think that we were standing amidst our fire when we were really sitting desperately in a pile of ash that we accidentally created? I wanted to say that it was love, but it wasn't. It was continuous heartbreak, so repetitive that we got used to it, that we became numb. This was our normal. When I told her, "I love you," I pulled her close so I could admire the way her freckles made constellations and the way her dimples formed on her face. She danced, spun, and twirled around me as she tried to make out "I love you too" before falling into my arms again. She let go after a few seconds and drifted away. I watched her bend down and run back to me with flowers in her hand. I remember when I first planted those. I had never been interested in gardening, but when a florist offered me a pack of seeds, I took them like I had experience. Those seeds were a promise of the future, and I came back immediately, clearing the backyard for them. Dawn would stand and watch me in the doorway with a smile as I stood over them for hours. At the beginning, they blossomed, even flourished in bright colors. But even at the beginning, I knew that I would never be able to maintain them. In a few months, they were sagging, bending over, almost avoiding the sunlight. I could hear their sighs from miles away. It was impossible to sleep with their groans filling my ears. Their frail silhouettes mocked me in the moonlight. I can faintly recall an instance where Dawn and I had created an uproar over something so trivial that I couldn't even remember what it was. I can't take it anymore," she screamed at me. And in a fit of anger, I rushed out of the kitchen into the makeshift garden. I tore the flowers from the ground. Petals, leaves, and stems rained down from the sky. It was only by chance that a few were spared. I gathered them in my hands and walked back into my house. She was standing in the same spot I had left her, and without making eye contact, I threw them down at her feet. Look how pretty they are," she said, breaking my train of thought. She placed one in my hair. They weren't pretty, not exactly. They were odd-looking, rugged, unconventional. It would have made more sense to plant roses, except I didn't, and now I was stuck in turmoil. Two roads were before me, stretching into eternity, and "Aren't they lovely?" she asked me. I could hear the empty hope fill her lungs as she said each word, and despite the warnings from the flowers, from the world, I said yes. Thank you for listening. Bye.